New data shows Canada's hot housing market may be cooling off. The Canadian Real Estate Association says the number of homes sold over the last year dropped nearly 26%. There was also an almost 4% decline in housing prices between March and April. The average price of a home totaled a little more than $741,000 last month. Realtors and lawyers in Toronto say they've noticed more buyers looking at options they have to get out of a purchase because of the change in market conditions. Joining us live tonight is President and CEO of Royal LePage, Phil Soper, along with real estate lawyer Mark Morris. Phil, what are you seeing with the market right now? How quickly the trends are changing, and who's really benefiting?
Well, it's the buyers that are benefiting. It's been a difficult couple of years for buyers in this market. Many of them involved in multiple offer situations where they get pushed to the sidelines, and that is changing, as it always does when a call it a period of irrational exuberance comes to an end.
All right, so Mark, describe what we're seeing in terms of buyer's remorse, customers looking at what options they have to get out of a recent purchase.
Yeah, well, we're seeing a definite market increase in buyers that are actually looking to explore options and see if, in fact, they can negotiate their way out of agreements. Of course, lawyers are about 3 months following the market. That is to say, we're closing deals that took place 3 months ago. And so a lot of people who are currently in our office paid top dollar for the properties and are now experiencing some regret. And the question, what do we do at this point, is a frequent one in our office.
And this is something, Phil, Mark, this is something that is not as precedented as you usually typically see.
No, it's not. Sorry, I apologize. No, it's not. I mean, this is indicative of the circumstance that we find ourselves in. As my fellow guest said, irrational exuberance leads to a fall. When you climb the heat peak extremely high, there's more room to actually plummet. And we're kind of starting to see that now. The heady days of the past 2 years, we're paying for them now. And some buyers in particular that have purchased at the wrong time are on the wrong end of that stick.
Yeah. Phil, are there certain types of homes and areas that are seeing better affordability? Is it condos versus detached homes, or certain locations around the GTA?
Well, you know what? Condominiums offer better value, and they always have. During the pandemic, they fell out of favor somewhat. So, yeah, they're attracting more attention. It is important to realize that this isn't a really unusual circumstance. We went through it in the spring of 2020, where people were worried that they potentially got into the market at the wrong time. Say they purchased in February or March, and then the pandemic hit, and they worried, and they talked about getting out of deals. Very few people actually unhook from deals. Most people go through, and of course they were fine then, and they'll be fine now. The market will go through a brief period of correction, and then it will start to appreciate again. So not too many people buy a home with the intent of staying in it for just a few months. They're typically many-year decisions, and in a market where household formation is growing and demand is high, supply is low, properties will start to appreciate again, but just not for the 2023 period.
So, Mark, I want to ask this next question in 2 parts, if you don't mind. Walk us through the legal options for first buyers and then sellers for a buyer that might want to get out of a deal.
Sure. Well, it's important to understand that the agreements that are unconditional, that is to say fully consummated without a home inspection or anything else associated with it, are firm deals. And what that practically means is that legally, buyers are on the hook both for their deposit, which are deemed to be liquidated damages by the court, but also for the delta that may exist between what it is that they originally sold for and what it is that they're able to now see on the open market. And as a result, it could be a significant amount of money that someone who chooses to walk away from a deal is liable for.
And so what does it mean for the potential seller here?
Well, I mean, as you can imagine, sellers are obviously understandably nervous with this market change, and good sellers using good realtors are now demanding higher deposits because, of course, the deposit is real money that is being held in trust to guard against this very circumstance. If you have a sufficiently high amount in a deposit, the likelihood of someone trying to walk away is greatly lessened. So sellers are learning their lessons very, very carefully, and the deposits that we're seeing hit with these new agreements are higher than they have been traditionally, and that is probably a direct reaction to the circumstance of the market today.
And finally, Phil, what's your advice to buyers feeling a bit spooked right now?
It's really important to understand the value of properties this particular week or next week, because in any market change, and this would have held true right through 2022, or sorry, right through 2021, when prices were rising very rapidly. It's really important, if you want to be successful in securing a property, to bid at market value. And on the other side of the equation, sellers have to be realistic if they want to move their property, and they have to price to the existing market. And there's nothing wrong with taking a few weeks and letting things settle down as well. These are big purchases. I do think it's going to be a really positive year for buyers, and the first one we've had since 2018, really. But they should take advice, and they should take that long second look at what they're getting themselves into and ensure that they're pricing to market or bidding to market.
And Mark, very quickly, one more question. What's your advice to anybody considering legal action?
Speak to a lawyer, and speak to a lawyer early on in the process, particularly if you're a buyer that feels stressed. Oftentimes, lawyers have quite a few tools in their tool shed, even with a firm agreement. And properly dialoguing with your lawyer and allowing that lawyer in turn to dialogue with the opposing counsel can often resolve disputes such that they don't need to go to court in the first place. So please speak to your lawyers. That's why we're here. Good lawyers shine during periods like this.
Phil Soper and Mark Morris, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Take care.